Hello student, this is Latif sir. How are you after summer vacation? This is your first chemistry class. Today I'll discuss about separation of mixture. You have already studied in class 7 about the different types of separation of mixture, separation techniques. You have to first know about the importance of separation. Why we will learn about the different types of separation techniques. Most most of the useful substances that we get from the nature are available in the form of mixture. So first we have to separate out the important substances that present in the mixture, otherwise we can't use. For example, water present in nature contains many impurities, so before use we have to separate the impurities from water. Similarly, salt present in seawater. So when salt is present in seawater, it is a mixture. So before you uh, to get the salt from seawater, we have to separate out by evaporation from the seawater. Okay. Similarly, the oxygen that we need to live is available in nature as a mixture of different gases. That is, oxygen is a mixture of different gases like carbon dioxide, nitrogen, oxygen. Many gases are there, so we have to separate out only the oxygen gas. So so we may need to separate the components of a mixture for the following common reasons. First, to remove the impurity that are harmful and undesirable. Second, to obtain a useful component. And third reason is to obtain a pure sample of a substance. These are the reasons of separation of a component of a mixture. Now, some method of separation of mixture. There are many method of separation of a separation of components of a mixture. However, not every method can be applied for separating every mixture. There are many methods of separation, but every method not every method can be applied for separating every mixture. The suitability of a separation method depends on the properties of the components present in the mixture. To separate a component from its mixture, this component must have a special property. To separate a component from a mixture, this component must have a special property that the other components of the mixture do not have. This one is important point, that uh, to separate a component from its mixture, this component must have a special properties that the other components of the mixture do not have. Such a differentiating property forms the basis of the separation method. Such a differentiating property forms the basis of the separation methods. This is the general principle of the separation of mixture. So, what is the general principle of separation of a mixture? The principle is, to separate a component from its mixture, this component must have a special property uh, that the other components of the mixture do not have. And using this special property, you can separate out this component from the other from the mixture. Okay. So first separation technique is hand picking. You have seen in at your home. Okay, this method, hand picking, means a separation by using your hand. So hand picking, the method of separating a mixture by picking out the components with one's hand, is called hand picking. The method of separation of mixture by picking out the components with one's hand is called handpicking. The differentiating property in this method is the visible difference in size, shape, shape or color of the components of the mixture. The differentiating property in this method, in this handpicking method, is the visible difference in size, shape, and color of the component of the mixture. Small stone present in pulses or in rice can be separated, can be removed by picking them out with one's hand. So this is example of hand picking. Okay. Similarly, flowers of sulfur are hand picked from naturally occurring sulfur after the sublimation process. So these are the example of hand picking. And the principle of hand picking is the visible difference in size, shape, or color of the component of the mixture. Second one, sieving. The method of separation, the method of separating a mixture by using a sieve is called sieving. You have also seen this method of separation. By using a sieve, the method of separating a component of a mixture by using a sieve is called sieving. The differentiating property in sieving is that the size of the components of the mixture. One component must be larger in size and other components must be smaller in size. Huh. The smaller size component will pass through the holes of the sieve, but whereas the larger component remain on the sieve. So differentiating property in sieving is that the size of the components. Okay. When the mixture is placed on a sieve and the sieve is shaken, the smaller component falls down through the holes of sieve, whereas the larger components remain on the sieve. By using this method, sand is sieved at construction site to remove the small stone, gravel from it. Huh. This is an example of sieving. Third method is winnowing. That is by using wind. The method of separating a mixture by using wind or by blowing air is called winnowing. The method uses mass as a differentiating property under the action of gravity. So in winnowing, the principle of separation is the mass as a differentiating property under the action of gravity. The lighter component can be separated from the heavier component using this method. The mixture is allowed to fall from a height and the heavier component falls almost straight downwards and the lighter components is blown away by wind to form a separate heap at a distance. Chap, the lighter component is separated from grain. Grain is the heavier component by this method. Okay, you have also seen this method. Okay, by using winnowing, separating of chaff from grains. Next method is magnetic separation. The method of separating magnetic components from a non-magnetic one by using a magnet is called magnetic separation. That is magnetic separation. In magnetic separation, you have to use a magnet, and in magnetic separation, one component of the mixture must have some magnetic property. So using this method, magnetic components such as scrap iron or other metals that get attracted to a magnet can be easily separated from a heap of waste. Okay. So in magnetic separation, the principle of separation is the magnetic property of one component. Next method is sublimation. Sublimation. What is sublimation? Sublimation. This method is used for the separation of solid which undergo sublimation. Sublimation is the process in which a solid uh, directly converts solid state into gaseous state. No liquid state formation is there. Okay, solid directly convert into gaseous state in sublimation process. So this method is used for the separation of solids which undergo sublimation. You have already studied in class 7 some solid like iodine, camphor, naphthalene. Hmm. These substances can uh, sublime to form the vapor of these substances directly from its solid state. Okay. So, for example, iodine is separated from sand through sublimation because on heating iodine sublime but sand do not sublime. So by using the method of sublimation you can separate out iodine from sand. Okay, on heating it changes to iodine vapor. On heating iodine changes to iodine vapor which is collected and cooled, but sand do not sublime on heating. You have to remember. Similarly, naphthalene, ammonium chloride, camphor are also sublime solid which are separated from a mixture by sublimation. Sometimes carbon dioxide gas is also removed by this technique. Sublimation is also used for purification of compounds. This is the process of sublimation, separating iodine from sand. Okay. Next one is froth flotation. This method is used. This is a new method. You have not studied about this method. Hmm. This method, froth flotation, is used for the separation of ores from its impurity, especially sulfide ores. Okay, and this method is based on the principle of preferential weighting of components of a mixture. Preferential weighting of components of a mixture, and the differentiating property used in this method is weighting. Okay, as in this method, a suitable liquid is mixed with the mixture and compressed air is passed through it. This air shake the mixture. Okay, and the weight of the component that gets weight more that gets more increase due to the absorbed liquid. The heavier components settle down while the lighter component floats trapped in inner froth over the mixture. This froth can be easily drained out and the component can be obtained by the simple process of drying. Okay. So example of flotation. This method is used for the concentration of sulfide ore, especially. Ore means ore are minerals from which metals are extracted economically. Economically means low cost, in low cost. Okay. So flotation method is used for the concentration of sulfide ore. You have to remember. An example of some sulfide ore such as galena, formula is PbS, lead sulfide, ore of lead, and zinc blende, formula is ZnS, ore of zinc. In froth flotation, pine oil and sodium ethyl xanthate or potassium ethyl xanthate are used, and water are mixed with crushed and finely powdered ore and water are mixed with the crushed and finely powdered ore in a tank, and then compressed air is passed through the solution through the tank because it start the solution it take the or start the mixture. Okay, that's why compressed air is passed through the tank. Now water and pine oil are immiscible liquids. Water and pine oil are immiscible liquids. Water wets the gangue, that is muddy impurities in the present in the ore. Water wets the gangue, that is muddy impurities present in the ore, makes it heavy and settle down. And pine oil is a frothing agent and forms froth with air. It traps the lighter ore particles. It traps the lighter ore particles and froth on the surface of water. The compressed air, the compressed air facilitates the formation of the bubbly froth, which is rich in ore and pine oil. Potassium and sodium ethyl xanthate act as stabilizer to stabilize the froth. Thus, the impurities are separated from the ore. This is the method of this picture is a method of flotation. By using this process, you can separate the sulfide ore of a metal from its impurity or gangue. Impurity means gangue. Next one is dissolution or dissolving. Dissolution or dissolving. This is a simple method. This the method of causing a soluble the method of causing a solute particle to pass into a solution is called dissolution. The method of causing a solute particle to pass into a solution is called dissolution or dissolving. This method is used when one of the component is soluble in a solvent and the other component is insoluble in the same solvent. This method, dissolution method, is used when one of the components is soluble in a solvent and the other is insoluble in the same solvent. For example, to separate a mixture of sand and salt, water is used as solvent. You have water here to separate a mixture of sand and salt. You have to use water because salt will dissolve in water, but sand will insoluble will not dissolve in the water. So by using this method, you can separate the mixture of salt and sand. Huh. To remove sulfur powder from sawdust, carbon disulfide is used as solvent. Sulfur dissolves in carbon disulfide. Sulfur dissolves in carbon disulfide solvent, leaving behind sawdust. Later, the solvent is allowed to evaporate and the sulfur is obtained. Okay, so these are some separation techniques you have to remember, and the basic principle of each separating technique you have to remember that. Okay, thank you.